An ATM on a quiet street begins dispensing cash. 20 hryvnia notes slide out of the slot in neat stacks and fall to the pavement. No card has been inserted, and no one is touching the machine. The security camera above the door records an empty sidewalk. Bills pile up on the concrete. The machine keeps dispensing. 300 kilometers away, in another city, another ATM does the same thing. Then another. And then another. Across Eastern Europe, cash machines are hemorrhaging money onto empty streets in the middle of the night. And no one, not the banks, not the software vendors, not the security firms, can explain why. By the time the sun comes up, someone will have collected every bill.
You are watching Disrupt.
The email arrives on a Tuesday morning. Looks like an internal memo. A .cpl file attached to a message about a pending compliance review. The kind of thing a mid-level bank employee opens without thinking. The kind of thing that never makes it past the spam filter at a tech company, but lands clean in the inbox of a regional bank in Eastern Europe that's running Windows XP on half its terminals. The employee clicks. Nothing visible happens. No pop-up, no warning, no lag. But something has changed. A remote access Trojan called Carbanak has just installed itself on the machine. It's small, quiet, patient. It doesn't encrypt files or demand ransom. It just sits and watches. Over the next 2 to 4 months, depending on the bank, the hackers behind Carbanak will do something that no cybercriminal group has done at this scale before. They will live inside the bank's network, not to steal data, not to plant ransomware, to learn. They map the internal architecture. They identify which server handles transfers, which terminals connect to Swift, which employees have authorization to move large sums. They install keyloggers, and they capture screenshots every 20 seconds. And then they turn on the webcams. The bank employees don't know it, but for months, someone in a room thousands of kilometers away is watching them work, watching how they log in, watching how they process transfers, watching which buttons they click, in what order, at what time of day. The hackers record the employees' screens and study the footage frame by frame, gesture by gesture, until they can replicate the workflow exactly. When the hackers are ready, they don't break in. They don't need to. They simply sit down at the controls and do what any authorized employee would do. They are the bank now. It's Thursday night, and the offices of Bangladesh Bank, the central bank of one of the world's fastest growing economies, are closing for the weekend. In Bangladesh, the weekend falls on Friday and Saturday. The building on Motich Hill Road empties out. Security guards take their posts. The Swift terminal in the basement hums in the dark. 8,000 miles away at 33 Liberty Street in Lower Manhattan, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York is open for business. It's Friday morning, the start of the American banking day. 35 payment instructions arrive over the SWIFT network. They appear to come from Bangladesh Bank. They carry the correct authentication codes. They request transfers from Bangladesh's foreign currency reserve account, one of many sovereign accounts held at the New York Fed, to a series of accounts in the Philippines and Sri Lanka. The total requested $951 million. The hackers have been inside Bangladesh's bank system for over a year. They've studied the SWIFT terminal and they've harvested credentials. They've mapped the procedures and they've chosen this window with surgical precision. Bangladesh's weekend has just begun. The Philippine banking system will close Monday for Chinese New Year, and by the time anyone at Bangladesh Bank sits down at their desk on Sunday morning, the money will have crossed 3 borders and disappeared. It is, on paper, the largest bank robbery in history. To understand what happens next, you need to understand
The Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, SWIFT.
SWIFT is not a bank. It doesn't hold money. It doesn't move money. It's just a messaging system, a network of secure communications that connect over 11,000 financial institutions across 200 countries. When a bank in Dhaka wants to transfer dollars from its account in New York, it sends a SWIFT message. The message says, move this money from here to there. That's it. An instruction. Authenticated, encrypted, trusted. The architecture of SWIFT was designed in 1973. It replaced telex machines. The fundamental assumption baked into every layer of its security is this: if a message arrives with correct credentials from a member institution's terminal, the message is genuine. The bank is who it says it is, and the instruction is authorized. SWIFT trusts the endpoints. If you compromise the endpoint, you are the bank. There's no video call to confirm, no secondary approval from a human at the receiving end, no biometric scan, just a message, a code, and a system that was built to move trillions of dollars a day as fast as possible. Carbanak understood this. The Lazarus Group understood this. 2 entirely separate organizations, one criminal enterprise from Eastern Europe, the other state-sponsored hacking unit from North Korea, arrived independently at the same conclusion. The global banking system is a castle with a 100-foot wall and an unlocked back door. The Carbanak gang did not steal money in one way. They stole it in every way the banking system allowed. First, the ATMs. Once inside a bank's network, the hackers could access the software that controlled automated teller machines. They reprogrammed specific ATMs to dispense cash at predetermined times, usually between 2 and 4 in the morning. Money mules recruited through contacts in the Moldovan mafia would wait at the machines with duffel bags. The ATM would begin spitting bills, and the mule would collect. No card, no PIN, no transaction record. One bank lost $7.3 million from ATM jackpotting alone. Method 2, the invisible inflation. Here, the hackers would access a customer's account, say a balance of $1,000, and inflate it to $10,000. They would then transfer the $9,000 difference to accounts they controlled. The customer's balance would return to its original amount. No alert triggered, no discrepancy noticed. The customer never knew. The bank never knew. The money simply materialized and vanished. Method 3, SWIFT. The same system Bangladesh Bank would later be attacked through. Carbanak used compromised credentials to send fraudulent transfer instructions through the interbank network, moving funds to accounts held by shell companies. The transfers looked routine. They carried valid authentication. By the time reconciliation caught the discrepancy, if it ever did, the money was in another country.
Rebels and change me. Welcome. It's time now.
Kaspersky Lab, who discovered and named the campaign in 2014, estimated the total theft at over $1 billion. More than 100 financial institutions across 30 countries. Russian banks were hit the hardest, then American, then German, Chinese, and Ukrainian. The gang had been operating since at least 2013, possibly earlier, under the name
Anunak.
They would later splinter and reform as Fin7, the Cobalt Group, and other entities that continued attacking financial institutions through 2021 and beyond. But in 2013, no one knew they existed. The ATMs just kept spitting cash onto empty streets. Of the 35 fraudulent SWIFT instructions sent from Bangladesh Bank's compromised terminal, 30 are flagged by the Federal Reserve's automated compliance system. The sheer volume of requests, nearly $1 billion in a single batch, triggers a review queue. These 30 transactions worth $850 million are held.
Flagged for review.
5 slip through.
Whoopsie.
$101 million is transferred. $20 million goes to an account at Pan Asia Bank in Sri Lanka, earmarked for a private company called the Shalika Foundation. $81 million goes to 4 accounts at the Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation in the Philippines. The RCBC accounts were opened 9 months earlier under fictitious identities. They sat untouched, empty, waiting until this exact moment. The 20 million routed to Sri Lanka is caught. Not by the Fed, not by Bangladesh Bank, by a compliance officer at Deutsche Bank, the intermediary routing the transaction. The reason? The beneficiary is listed as
Shalika Foundation.
one letter is the difference between $951 million and $81 million. A Deutsche Bank employee notices this misspelling, flags it, and requests clarification from Bangladesh Bank. The Sri Lankan transfer is frozen and eventually recovered. But the $81 million bound for the Philippines is already moving. The funds land in the RCBC account on February 5th. Over the next week, while Bangladesh Bank's offices are closed for the weekend and Philippine banks prepare for Chinese New Year, the money is converted from dollars to Philippine pesos through a foreign exchange broker. It flows to a Chinese-Filipino businessman. It moves through the Solaire Resort and Casino and the Eastern Hawaii Leisure Company, Manila's glittering casino floors, where anti-money laundering regulations do not apply. On February 8th, Bangladesh Bank discovers the breach. They send a swift stop payment message to RCBC. It arrives during Chinese New Year. The Philippine banks are closed. By the time the message is processed, $58 million has already been withdrawn in cash from RCBC's Jupiter Street branch in Makati City. Bangladesh Bank's governor resigns. He'd not disclosed the heist to the government for over a month. The Philippine Senate launches an investigation. RCBC is fined a record $21 million. The money vanishes into the casino system and eventually into Hong Kong. The Lazarus Group, the North Korean state-sponsored hacking unit believed to be responsible, is also linked to the 2014 Sony Pictures hack, the WannaCry ransomware attack, and a string of smaller bank heists across Southeast Asia. Their operating base is believed to be in Pyongyang, within a military intelligence division called Bureau 121. They did not rob Bangladesh Bank for profit in the traditional sense. They robbed it because North Korea, strangled by international sanctions, needed hard currency. The global banking system was the softest target available.
Hola, ¿quién eres tú? ¿Ah?
Yo soy el marcianito y esta es mi canción.
A Ukrainian national in his 30s sits in an apartment overlooking the Mediterranean. He lives well. Luxury cars in the garage, designer clothes in the closet, a lifestyle that doesn't match any legitimate income on file. His name is reported as Dennis K. The Spanish National Police, coordinating with Europol, the FBI, and law enforcement agencies in Romania, Moldova, and Belarus, have been watching him for months. The operation has been years in the making. They move in. Dennis K. is arrested. In the apartment, investigators find €500,000 in cash. Outside, luxury vehicles. On his devices, the infrastructure of an empire. Command and control servers, malware repositories, transaction records linking back to dozens of compromised banks across multiple continents. Europol announces the arrest with a statement. The mastermind behind a €1 billion cyberbank robbery has been captured. But here's the thing about Carbanak and about cybercrime at this scale. There's no single mastermind. Dennis K. is a node in a network. The campaigns continue. The Hudson's Bay company is breached using point-of-sale malware later that same year, attributed to the same group. Fin7 members are arrested in 2018, 2019, 2021. The group reforms, rebrands, recruits. 6 months after Dennis K's arrest, the United States Department of Justice unseals an indictment against Park Jin-hyuk, a North Korean computer programmer linked to the Lazarus Group, charged in connection with the Bangladesh Bank heist, the Sony Pictures attack, and the creation of WannaCry. The FBI issues a wanted poster. Park Jin will never be arrested. He's in Pyongyang, behind the most heavily militarized border on Earth, writing code for a government that has turned cybercrime into a pillar of its national economy. Dennis K. sits in a Spanish jail cell. Park Jin sits at a desk in North Korea. $81 million sits in the crevices of Manila's casino system. And the SWIFT network processes 42 million messages a day, each one authenticated by a system designed in 1973. In the years after Carbanak was exposed and the Bangladesh bank heist made headlines, things changed slowly. SWIFT launched a customer security program. Banks upgraded their internal networks. Two-factor authentication was introduced at some institutions. Kaspersky, FireEye, and other security firms published exhaustive technical reports. Conferences were held, white papers circulated, lessons, ostensibly, were learned. But the architecture remains. 11,000 institutions connected by a messaging system that trusts the endpoints. Internal bank networks running legacy software because upgrading is expensive and downtime is unacceptable. Employees clicking email attachments because the compliance memo looks real. Webcams that can be activated remotely on machines that handle billion-dollar transfers. The Carbanak gang watched bank employees through their own cameras for months before stealing a single dollar. They didn't crack encryption or exploit a zero-day. They watched people do their jobs, and then they did those jobs themselves. The Lazarus Group sent 35 messages through a system that processed them because the authentication codes were correct. They nearly stole $1 billion, but a typo stopped them. Not a firewall, or an algorithm, or a security protocol. A typo. Somewhere right now, in a bank you've never heard of, in a country that isn't making headlines, a spear phishing email has just been opened. A remote access Trojan is installing itself. A webcam light flickers on, so briefly that no one notices. And then it goes dark.
Some of y'all never been down south too much. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about this so that you understand what I'm talking about. Down there we have a plant that grows out in the woods and the fields. Looks something like a turnip green. Everybody calls it poke salad. Poke salad. Used to know a girl lived down there and she'd go out in the evenings and pick her a mess of it, carry it home and cook it for supper.